name is Ashoka. I work with Vodafone. So my question is, have you always been this bold and badass, or did you grow into your confidence? And at which point did you realize that, yes, I am fabulous?
I like the way you said that. I think it's practiced. Like any good thing. You do it a little bit at a time every day, and eventually you just start walking into it. It actually did start when I was a kid. Like I said, I gave you the example of what my mom used to do to us. I had 3 younger sisters, so there were 4 girls in my family. You should see that woman walk. She walks with a strut, and there was nothing to do but emulate that. So I had a great role model. Additionally, I think, again, sometimes we look at the struggles in our lives and we think that, oh my goodness, like, back to the question, like, why me? Why did this happen? Why am I, one of the few black girls in this place where people don't understand where I come from, where they talk about my hair, where they, like, why? But honestly, it made me have to go deeper to find my own self-worth, because no one was telling me that I was beautiful, or that I was worthy, or that I deserved a promotion, or that I deserved the money. You know what I mean? No one was telling me that. And so I had to practice that and figure out how every single time I got knocked down, I could then use that to come back stronger. I took them as lessons, really. That every time something happened, I would say, it won't happen to me ever again. It's always a lesson. I never ever look at those opportunities and say, oh man, well, let me just go sit down in the corner and try something new. No, actually, I'm not trying something new. I'm coming back stronger, and I'm coming to get it.
Okay. Right. My name is Antonio Koshiausa. I'm the Chief Executive of a Total Family Health Organization, a social marketing organization. I have 3 questions. The first one is, does innovation have to be necessarily disruptive? The second question is, would you consider Uber to be a technology company, or it's actually a transport company based on the recent declaration by the UK? And finally, what's your position on the Me Too campaign?
Yes.
And the implications for the employment of women in the future?
Wow, okay, so you might have to hold on to that mic because I might need you to repeat some of the questions. So the first one was about innovation disruption, right?
Yes.
I do believe that innovation needs to be disruptive because, quite frankly, innovation means that you're taking something that exists or something that does not exist at all and changing the matter. It's never comfortable. People often will either balk at it, make fun of it, or say it's impossible. And so true innovation needs to really change the matter. If it doesn't disrupt, it is sort of an iteration. It is actually not innovation. So that's the difference that I would mark. Your second question was about how Uber defines itself, right? As transportation or
technology
company.
Yeah.
I think the definitions are really tough. Again, the beauty of innovation is that you're creating something new, a new space, a new way to describe something. I don't know that we have the definitions because I don't think that Uber is done growing or done innovating. That there are so many ways and so many places for the technology to go that we're still discovering, that we're probably going to come up with new terms to describe what the businesses in this gig economy look like. Because you could ask if Airbnb is a hotel company, but that doesn't sound right? It doesn't. And so how would you describe any of these gig economy companies that are really creating new spaces for themselves? So I don't know that there's a clear answer. I would say it's a little bit of everything, trying to create something totally new out of existing matters.
Or whether Facebook is a publishing company.
Correct, yeah, or a media company.
Well, and actually one thing I struggle with is the fact that innovation and disruption takes the lead before even, if you like, the politics and policy follows through. So there's always that internal tension as to, yes, in a sense, it's allowed for the innovation to take place. Then it looks like policy has to play catch up. Then you're pulled back. So at what point would there be some sort of a dialogue between the leaders of innovation and disruption and policy?
Yeah.
So that there is that stepwise good step towards ensuring that it's accepted, rather than the gains come through, then it's actually eroded again with policy.
Right. Okay, so I'll answer it quickly so that we can get to some other folks
Sure.
as well. But truly, the challenge with innovation is that it truly needs to change the way things are. And so when there are policies in place that don't wholly wrap around the innovation, you have to find the ways through that policy while still obeying the law, because law-abiding, nobody wants to be breaking laws, and find ways to create new conversations. It's going to take innovators on the other side of the table to also create the new policies to embrace the future. That's really what we're struggling with right now. I think for many tech companies and many companies who are innovative or disruptive, they're struggling with how to create that change, still help and develop communities and cities, and also encourage the folks who are creating the policies and the laws to come along on the journey, and not to protect the old, but to move into the future. It takes bravery to do that. It takes breaking of some things that are comfortable in order to do that. Not everyone is in that comfortable space. And so sometimes you have to prove that it works in order for all of the rest to catch up. And then your last question about Me Too is really significant. It ties back to the point I made about why I joined Uber in the first place, about being a representation for not just Black women, or not just Ghanaian women, or not just immigrant families and people, but truly about this change in power. That what you think is powerful may not be true. That it is time for us to change the dynamic. That what we thought was acceptable because of what it was created, or the systems that created and the people in power, need to break. And it will take the collective voice. This is not actually a women's issue. This is all of our issue. And if we don't all get on board to change it, all of our communities will suffer. I think we're seeing the beginnings of it. It's nowhere near done.
Next question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Regina. I work with Vodafone. Just two questions for me. The first one, if you had to go back the journey of your life, just two milestones where you do something way better. So just think about it. For all the things you've gone through as a child to what you are today, is there any two things in your life that you wish you could do better or you improve? And then the last thing is on your note on urgency. It's something that really hit home for me. It's easy to think about that with family and relationships, right? So things that you have to do for your family, all those things. But in business, how do you have an almost perfect balance between being urgent and having risk that you can contain as a business person?
Those are really great questions. Okay, so perhaps I'll answer your second one first about the urgency, which is that, for me, there really is no balance. I think balance is a myth. It's one of those things that somebody else has created it. Somebody else has said, you need to do this, and you need to do that. You need to be responsible to these people, and you need to be responsible to yourself. You need to be responsible to your boss, and you need to be responsible to the balance sheet. Those are myths. The only balance is within myself. So I'll just use myself as an example, which is that when I'm feeling something, and I've said this before in other forums, but I'll say it here, which is that I don't actually create pro and con lists. The list that says, oh, you should do this because of these things, and we shouldn't do these because of these things. Because often what happens is you end up talking yourself into a really bad idea, or talking yourself out of a really good one. It also happens with getting advice from other people who may not know where you're going and have no concept of what it is that you're doing, who want to give you advice. It's always good intentions, always. They love you. They want to protect you. But can fill you with fear that is unnecessary. So for me, I don't look at these opportunities as risks. I try to understand what it is that I need in my professional life, what I need for the next step in my career. Is it going to be a good move for me? Do I like it? Am I going to enjoy it? Is it going to be great for my daughter? And then I go. Sometimes jumping with my eyes closed, because the fear is there. It's true. It's never not there, to be honest. But it does spur me into greater things. I forgot your first question. I'm sorry.
What was the first question again?
Oh, but I wanted, yes, okay. You know what's interesting about that? And maybe this is going to sound like untrue, but it really is true. I really have no regrets. I don't. For me, because of the urgency and this need to follow my own path always, there have been very few times, and I can point to maybe 2, where I have paused before I made the leap to do whatever I wanted to do and thought, oh, I should have done it sooner. Maybe that is a slight regret. But if it's something that I have done and I chose to do it, then what's the regret? I'm going to learn from it, definitely. If it didn't go right, I'm not saying everything I do is right. Believe me, I made many mistakes. But I never regret those things because I chose it. I think there's regret when somebody else makes the choosing for you. And then you're like, I should never have listened. But if you make the decision, sit in it.
You're responsible for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Sandra, and my question is...
Can't see her. Oh, you're back there. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think those of us in the diaspora are doing a great job owning our heritage, and through the internet actually communicating a different narrative of Africa.
Yes.
What else do you think we can do to make more of those that are actually here, haven't necessarily gone outside, be proud and value who we are, independent of comparing ourselves to the Western world and not necessarily being better?
Ooh, I love that question. Okay, so here's the thing. I think it's so interesting that I talk about Ghana so much that the actual fact is that because my dad went to Wesleyan University, I was actually born in Connecticut, but I talk about Ghana so much and with so much pride that even on my Wikipedia page, it says I was born in Ghana. That's how much pride I have about being from here. I think it's really important for us to show up as our whole selves all the time. It's the unique things about our culture and our being, our way of celebration, our way of greeting, our way of anything that makes us so special. And that, you're right, I think the internet and social media has made for better communication where we can tell our own stories. I wish we would do more of that. That we would loudly proclaim the things that are so unique to us. Recently, Business Insider ranked, the best dressed executives in Silicon Valley, and yours truly won. Because, come on. Was there any competition, really? But one of the things that they noted in the article when they were talking about my style was that she's often seen with Ghanaian accessories. And literally, I was like, that was the best thing that I could have read. Because for me, it was like, I'm not trying to be like other executives. I don't need to wear the power suit. I want to carry my full Angelina skirt to work. I want to wear my hair in my beautiful cornrows. I want to wear my bracelets. I want to wear my earrings. I want to do the things that represent us. And also in the storytelling. I want to tell that story wherever I am. So when it comes up in conversations or in interviews, I always reference back. When I'm making a reference, again, about growing up, I always talk about my pepper soup experience. Just little cues that will allow for the pride to show through. And again, I really do hope that I am representing us well and that other people will follow in that footstep too.
Can we bring the microphone forward a little bit? I think, okay, so after Nicole and then Yolanda in front here.
Hi, Bazoma.
Hi.
A quick one. Are there any majority-owned Ghanaian companies that you are really proud of that you think are one day going to take over the world?
Ooh, take over the world. That is such a hard question. You know what? I'm not sure. You know what I really find, it kind of relates to the last question about pride. I really try to support businesses that are authentic to me, that are Ghanaian made and owned. So for instance, this lovely woman, she has a company called Kua Designs. It's a purse company. I carry that a lot of times on red carpets, you know, because why shouldn't it be on the Grammy red carpet with me, you know? And then I tag it so that other people will say, oh, where'd you get that bag? Right, exactly, her. You know, I think it's really important, again, that it does relate to the last question about pride, in that we need to be able to support companies, businesses that are of our own interest. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually find it so funny when people are like, oh, well, I don't want to seem like I'm too biased, you know, around, you know, where I'm from, or, you know, may seem like some sort of, you know, improprietary type of thing. And I'm like, but why? That's the whole point. You know, you get to a certain level and you pull other people up with you. You know, if you don't do that, then everybody gets left behind. And what, you're the only one shining out there? Guess what, you're going to fall someday, so then you'll be there by yourself. Why don't you need some people up there to catch you when you do fall? Yeah. So yeah, maybe Kua will become the next like Vera Wang. Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Yolanda. I'm the CEO of Vodafone. Firstly,
Well, hello, boss.
Hi.
Yeah.
Firstly, I mean, it's first to say thank you for everything you've done, because you're actually marketing it up there for all the women and for all African women. I'm not Ghanaian, but I'm really, really proud when I see women like you actually making it and actually also trying to open the way for other women to actually pass through. So well done first for that.
Thank you.
And that's why Vodafone is so well represented, because
Amen.
we said we actually want to show emotional and physical support for women in business and who are really making it. My question is around Uber. Spent some time in Silicon Valley in the last few weeks, and you know, I say tech gigs are taking over the world. I mean, they've become new bosses. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have people in technology actually heading up the best companies in the world. It was the marketing people, it was the finance people, it was all those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How is this going to actually change how we perceive the world in the future, where companies that are not necessarily producing stuff actually being the trillion-dollar companies in the world? So your top 5 will actually become that.
Yeah.
And then the second question is around how will machine learning actually impact what you do? Is marketing becoming an art or a science? Is that whole thing around AI going to actually change how we do what we do today?
Right. Ooh, you guys do not have easy questions, man. Okay. So about sort of leadership and you know, folks who are in tech leading, you know, the biggest companies, and what does that mean? You know, I really feel that at this point, you know, some of the questions about innovation and those type of things are true to how we behave as well, right? I was recently asked sort of a difficult question, similar to your difficult questions, about, you know, what happens to any driver once, you know, driverless cars or those types of things become an everyday thing. And my question to them, and this was specific in the US, I said, well, what happened to the milkman? You know, there used to be a milkman who would come around and deliver milk to everyone's doorstep. What happened to that person? Did he become the Amazon delivery guy? You know, what happened to that job? And so to me, it's about all of us understanding what is happening in the future and not being afraid of it. You know, understanding how to adapt to it, how to find our talents and apply them to the new world. Because again, we don't want to be left behind. We shouldn't be left behind. And I don't believe that there's only one way of doing anything. that it will take all of our collective talents in the many ways that they show up in order to actually produce these companies. You know, I think Uber is actually a very good example where you can't just have one type of person running a company. You need many different types of people. You know, you need someone who's creative to come in and help shape a brand because the engineers can't do it. They just don't think that way. That's no shade to them. They just can't. I don't code, you know? But we do need each other in order to create a balanced world. And so I don't think that the jobs are necessarily leaving or that the tech giants are then going to rule the world. I think we will all be doing our roles just a little bit differently. And we actually need to be visionary in seeing how we're going to participate in the future. And then your second question, art and science. Yes, I love that question. Because I really do think it is somewhat of a combination, but I lean more towards the arts. You know, and again, this comes into the, you know, well, who's doing this side of it versus this side of it? A lot of tech companies are obviously using performance marketing, growth marketing as the basis for a lot of the communication. You know, what's going to perform better? What's going to get me a great return on investment? You know, if I buy this many, you know, these banner ads, it's going to get me this many clicks. Well, you can do all the math all you want to, but if you have the wrong message at the wrong time, then it's not going to help you. You know, I have two very special friends here, Boris Kojo and Nicole Ari Parker, who are, yes, that's good, let's go broad. They're great here. Yes. They're here with their lovely children, Nico and Sophie. But it's interesting because we just did a partnership together because one of the things that, you know, I saw when I came first into Uber was this need to humanize the brand. Right? So I think that goes to the question previous also about, is it a tech company? Well, no, it's a human company. You know, there are human beings driving the cars, and there are human beings who are creating the software, and there are human beings who are writing the ads, and there are human beings who are serving the lunch. It is a human company. And so how do you express humanity? Well, Boris and Nicole happen to have a very popular Facebook live program, I would call it, in which people watched them talk about many different things. They were in cars. They also had a talk show. Obviously, they're beautiful actors and real creative people who understand how to communicate to people. And so we did a partnership in which they then, and this was recent, this was just a few weeks ago, where they sat in Ubers and had the audience, so you engage the digital audience, to tell them where to go. The campaign was called Where To. And essentially they would just write it into the comments or, you know, give them advice on where to go, and they would plug it into the app, and off they would go. It created many adventures. They went to like 5 cities in 5 days, I think. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. That was really hard for you. But they did beautifully. But my point is that AI wouldn't have been able to tell me that these two beautiful people are really engaging and really lovable and funny, and that they would be able to communicate some of the harder tech ideas, like plugging in an address to someplace you don't know, and that you'd be able to go and have a good time. That's what I want to communicate. They did that brilliantly, but AI would have never been able to tell me that. And so it requires some heart and spirit in order to understand what's happening in the world, pay attention, and then apply it to the marketing. So it's art to me.
I'm going to take just 2 more. So I'll take Esther, and then we'll go to the back.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Esther Amma. I'm the director of EAA Media Productions. Thank you so much for what has been an inspirational afternoon. I want to ask you about reimagining leadership, because we're in Ghana, and failure as instruction. So what I love about listening to you and looking at you is that you embody a reimagined leadership. This is my 3rd year living in Ghana, and I think we have a very linear and sometimes limited idea of what leadership looks like. It's male, it's in a suit, it has a title, there's an oga, you have a V8, you have an office, it's air conditioned. And I want to ask you about what leadership means and looks like to you and how that has changed in the iterations of your work.
Yeah.
That's the first question. And the second one is, you talked about making mistakes. And again, in Ghana, we think of mistakes either as somebody else's problem or somebody else's fault, again, within leadership, but it's not instructive. And so I wonder for you about incidences of failure that have been instructive. What is the lesson that you've learned and how has that made you a better leader? Thank you.
Great questions too, gosh. Okay, so the first one about the appearance of leadership. So first I'm gonna talk to the women in the room, which is that I think for a long time, actually for the entirety of business, there have been ideals about what leaders should look like. And what happens when we then grow into leadership positions is that we assimilate into those images. We think that in order to appear powerful, we must then also embody that look and the aesthetic. The V8 or anything else. You know, like you feel like you must do that in order to be taken seriously. So I want to challenge us. I want to get promises and head nods all around the room that as we are in leadership positions, I'm looking at the ladies, as we are in leadership positions, that we actually break that mold ourselves. We need to do it. We need to stop doing it. And we need to stop telling young women who are coming behind us that they must do that in order to get successful. So first, we must embody it. And then we must encourage the younger women to also embody it. And so first and foremost, it's our responsibility. Secondly, now to the men. You have to make room. It's quite simple. You have to make room. You have to make room for ideals that are not like you, that are not the aesthetic that you thought. Even if you want to embody that. No one is saying that you can't wear a suit. You look fine in a suit. You look great in a suit. I think you're fabulous. But it doesn't mean that the woman who is as powerful, who is as decisive, who is as smart, who is making the great decisions can't look different than you. That if she shows up in something that you assume is not presidential or corporate, that somehow she doesn't have a brain. So we need your promise. Again, I'm going to look around the room and make you feel uncomfortable, that you can agree to that. I'm sure there's somebody in your office now that you can probably go to and encourage. And I actually want you to do that. Like vocally, encourage. The second question about failure as instruction is also really important. One trick that I've used, I actually did it when I joined Uber, was that sometimes, you go into a new job and you want to, obviously we all want to do well, so you want to appear that you probably know more than you do, even if you don't. It certainly is, listen, I don't know everything about this job either, okay? I'm growing into it. I think it's okay to admit it, but you can do it in the privacy of the conversation with your boss. That's what I have done. It's actually been a very good tool to me, because what happens is that then my boss or those in the leadership role which were above me almost feel the responsibility to help me. They kind of feel like co-authors. Because if you walk around like a peacock and you're like, I can do it myself, I can do it, da, 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 and then you fail, people are like, but I thought you said you could do it yourself. What happened? But if I go in and say, hey, listen, I'm really good at this, that, this one I'm a little bit unsure about, I'm gonna need your help or advice, because maybe you've been here before, to help me understand how to do it so I can be successful, you would be shocked by how many people then, oh yeah, well let me tell you how to do this exactly. Because everyone wants to feel like they're helping somebody or that they're the boss, right? And so just play into that. That's what has helped me, because then if there is any failure, other people feel kind of responsible too. You know what I mean? They feel like, oh, well, I told her to go do that, and then it got ruined. You know what I mean? But also they're less willing to blame you 100% and also more willing to help you find solutions. So you don't need to do it publicly. I think it's very fine to do it privately. And of course, use your intuition, to figure out how far you want to take it, because clearly there are some bosses out there who are not great and won't accept that kind of honesty. But I think more often than not, you'll find that bosses are actually open to that, and that failure then does not become detrimental, but it can actually become a building block, and it actually creates trust. And then last point on that, which is that I think oftentimes we feel shame about our failure, and then we try to hide it, and it creates bigger problems. When I have failed, I have gone to my colleagues, people at my level, and asked for their support. Asked for their support, especially with my boss. Literally, like in going in the hallway conversation, in the going out to get tea or whatever, the whisper in the hallway, which is like, Bo's she had some really great ideas, but that one, it just didn't work out. But you know what I think happened? It's because of da-da-da. But she's gonna do it better. We just talked about it. Like that actually works. So I use propaganda to help me.
All right, so, okay, there's one here. Okay, there's a hand at the back that's been up for a very long time, and so I'll take that after you.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Yasmin, and I live in New York, and for a Ghanaian living in New York, Boss is like our hero, because what she has accomplished is unheard of. When you live in New York, to work in America, to work in a corporate field and be black, be a female, and then be African is like unheard of. So we're like really, really proud of you. So that's what leads me to my question. You've worked for some of the best companies in the world. In the future, do we have a badass boss company coming that's going to be the next Uber, that's going to break all the boundaries ever in the world? And if there is, what would it be?
Wow, okay. So first of all, I'm not giving you any trade secrets. I just told you that. No, but thank you so much for the compliment, and thank you also for yours. I really do appreciate the encouragement. I say this quite publicly. Again, I have no problem being vulnerable, which is that I do need encouragement. I think people think that you get to the top and somehow you're bulletproof, but the bullets come harder, and they come faster, and they come for your head. You know what I mean? No one's missing, And so encouragement from those who appreciate the struggle and the journey is sacred. Oftentimes, and it's funny, I think people think that social media is like a joke, and superficial or whatnot. But you wouldn't believe how many times, like, I'll post some accomplishment, that really was like blood, sweat, and tears. That people didn't look at and say, oh, this is fabulous. Oh, congratulations, But it's the comments of strangers, other black women, other people who are inspired, who say, great job, we know what that must have been, what that took. Really, really proud of you for doing that. It emboldens me. I walk around even badassier after that. I'm like, yeah, you can't tell me anything, And it's really important to get encouragement. Actually, again, back to sort of lessons and homework for all of us in the room, is that we should encourage each other more. It's like, why do we criticize each other so much? It's like you look at somebody do something, and then you're like, oh, but they could have done this, that, and that. Well, what about what they did do? So can we also, as Africans in Ghana or anywhere else in Africa or in America, encourage our wins more? Be loud about that versus the criticism. And then as for the future, I do enjoy working at mega companies. I think there is a real need for what I call intrapreneurs, folks who are going to go in and disrupt what it has been. And since I have cracked the door open, I plan to just blow it all the way open and bring everybody with me. So I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer.
Okay, so that one, and it wasn't meant for you, but it's okay. I'll still take that lady in the corner.
You know why he's standing up? Because he was in class 5 with me here in Accra at Rich Church School, and he is probably planning on embarrassing me. Can you imagine? You know what I'm saying? Please don't tell any stories of when I was 11.
I would never do that to you.
Hello, Ato. How are you?
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Ato Bernasco, and yes, I'm a classmate of Bazoma from Richard School, which is around the corner from here. Bazoma, I wanted to find out what it is that you're doing to encourage us people who are coming up in the ranks. Do you do any informal mentoring to young women, young men who are in corporate or aspiring to be in corporate or even in the creatives on how to shatter that glass ceiling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Because of the platform, when I was more junior in my career, I found it really weird that people waited until they were really senior executives to start mentoring people. I was like, why would you wait? You know, it's like you can do it at every level. And also sort of mentorship at, lateral levels, that the people who are at your level are sometimes the best at giving sort of the really critical advice because they know what you're going through and they know exactly where you are. That sometimes as you grow and as you ascend, you forget some of the more intricate issues, at certain levels. But I do encourage what I would call informal friendships. I don't like mentorship so much. It sounds so strange. It feels like a forced network where it's like I must give you my business card and shake your hand, Whereas informal friendships or like the 1-2 questions here and there make sense to me. I actually do use social media as a really good platform for that, in that I often find people asking questions, how to do this, how to do that, where do I go for this, where do I go, and I do answer them. And so for me, that's the way that I give back. And I'm not like being flippant when I say I really do share a lot on social media, just because I want people to see, I want people to see. And that is somewhat of mentorship, in that if you can see it, then you know it's possible, and that perhaps you can emulate that too. And so for me, I take it in several levels. And then when I speak at places like this, often I encourage that we open the doors for those who aren't able to afford to be in the room, or who would not have access for outreach to be able to come in. And then I've joined several organizations, quite honestly. Again, I feel like for all of us, we can do it at every level. You don't have to wait till you're, a C-suite executive in order to do it. That I've been a member of the ALIWA League, which is a mentorship organization online for young women for about 10 years, and that was done when I didn't have the C-suite title. And so I feel like for all of us, there's an opportunity to do it when we're not yet at this level.
The last question.
Hi, my name is Linda Amenuvo, and I'm the lead person for the girls program at Right to Dream. My question is, despite the fact that we can...
And what's Right to Dream? Is that the football academy?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So my question is, despite the fact that we can be self-motivated, there's always someone to look up to. So growing up, who is your role model and why? Thank you.
Great. You know what? I think role models are there's several, right? Because it's like friendship. It's like sometimes it's there for your entire life. Sometimes it's there for a certain season. Sometimes they do something to make you mad and you move on, And so role models to me have changed through the years. I mentioned my mom, who is a constant for me. I just think she's so fabulous, I love her style, and I love the way she's direct. I love the way she moves in a room. And so she's certainly a constant role model for me. My daughter is a role model for me. I love her curiosity, and her belief. Sometimes you get so jaded in the world, and she's so trusting and willing. And so she inspires me. I look to her often. There are people that I don't know that I think are interesting mentors. Sometimes I quote Kris Jenner, who is Kim Kardashian's mom, as a sort of distant one, because I just think that it's so crazy what she's been able to turn, from what her daughter was doing, that she's created this entire empire, We won't talk about it now, but you and I can have a conversation about it later. I just think it's brilliant. And she probably doesn't get enough credit for that, by the way, but anyway. And then, like I said, there are people that I see in my job, or even lateral friends who are mentors to me. One of my best friends, her name is Erica Priestley. We have been at 5 companies together. When I was at Spike Lee, then she joined. That's how we met. She left. She went to a company called Arnold Worldwide, which is an ad agency. She saw there was an opportunity there, and she told me about it, and I jumped and went there. Then I left there and went to Pepsi, And when I was leaving my job to be promoted within Pepsi, I recommended her, and she came in and took my job. And then she left and went to Beats, helped grow that company. And right when they created the streaming service from the headphone company, and they're looking for a head of marketing for the streaming service, she told me about it, and I jumped and went there. 3 months later, we were both acquired by Apple, and that's where I left her. So I won't say that she's not coming to Uber, but she's certainly a mentor to me too.
Thank you for your wonderful questions.
Thank you.
Just a couple more and then we'll be done. Do you have Me Too stories too?
I think everyone does, yeah.
That you would share?
Well, I mean, I think it's quite obvious. There are so many microaggressions, as well as the stories that we've been seeing. I think the microaggressions are things like when somebody talks over you in a meeting, or when somebody tries to mansplain something, or when you are passed over for a job that you are more qualified for, or you're given an offer for less money than you deserve. These are all instances, I feel, where they are microaggressions, and they may not be categorized as harassment, but they are harassment because they kill our spirit. And so to me, when people say, oh, well, I've never experienced it, I'm like, really? Because I think we all have. And it's not, it is obviously happening to a majority of women, but I don't think it's a women's problem. It's a man's problem, and the men need to fix it. And so to me, there is a real need for solidarity, not just for women to do #MeToo, but for the men to join the conversation. I want more men to come out and talk about that, witnessed issues and situations that they've seen, and speak up. You don't have to out the woman, but say you saw it. Somebody needs some backup. And so why is it that the women are the only ones speaking? I think men need to start coming out and telling stories. Tell on your homeboy. Tell what he did.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any stories? That you can share?
How much time do you have? Finally, where is Bazoma going?
Ooh, towards world domination, baby. No, but seriously, I am so thankful to be on this journey. I have extraordinary faith in God and in the journey that has been created specifically for me. I am not trying to follow anyone else's path. And so for me to be arrogant enough to assume that the dreams I have dreamed are as big as the ones God has for me is inconceivable. So I won't pretend to have any kind of idea about where I'm going. I am fully trusting God in the next steps of my life.
Bazoma Saint John, Pathmaker. Oyikwan.
Amen.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for this platform. Thank you so much. Thank you.